Like,
hi, Jen. I miss you. Hi. I was just saying hi, Jen. I miss you. I haven't seen Jen.
I know. We've been texting all the time. Hi, everybody. We have missed you. We have not seen you for a little while. Welcome to the very, very special 2-year anniversary edition of Blaze Baking with Rach. Rach, congratulations. We are so proud of you. I love this endeavor. We're the only book and author network that has a baking show.
Yes, we are.
Authors who have books, who are pro chefs, who are pro cooks with books. And we're like super, super excited that we're doing this for 2 years. Like, this is a really groundbreaking
It's crazy. And Jen and I, in our text, we were saying to Aliza, maybe you could appreciate this. 2 years ago, we were like in the height of COVID, and we were so nervous to do the baking show. Our first guest was Cheryl Day from Back in the Day Bakery in Savannah. And she's awesome. And we were like, oh my God, what if I mess up I don't know how to do this? Like, and we did it. Yeah.
We did do it. And yeah, it was very unnerving because there's so much more tech involved with a baking show, obviously. I mean, Rach had to get a whole new kitchen. Like, this is a new kitchen that she
Pretty much, I did. We redid our kitchen during COVID. We were those people.
Yeah. But it was for the baking show. Just
and I did the show once from my porch and once from my neighbor's kitchen. But anyway, yeah.
So great. Okay, so let me welcome everybody to the Blaze. For those of you who are new here, Blaze is a team of 35 professional creative volunteers who banded together in March 2020 to put authors online when their book tours and events had been canceled. And we have just kept going. And so whatever variant of COVID we're in now, even as we begin to peck our way out of our pandemic shells, we are still here putting authors online and connecting them with audiences, which is a joy and a privilege. If you like what you see here, please give us a like or a follow on Facebook, on Twitter, on Instagram, on YouTube. We are ubiquitous. And also, like, if you're watching this on YouTube, good for you. Smash and subscribe. Smash the like button and subscribe, because we are trying to get bumped up to as many followers as possible. That's my new thing, is like to grow our YouTube empire. But anyway, you can also subscribe to our newsletter, which is www.mightyblaze.com. And there's a pop-up link. You will never be left out of anything literary ever again if you do that. No mo FOMO. Nobody likes that. So welcome to the Blaze. And those of you who are repeat Blaze offenders, part of Blaze Nation, welcome back. We love you. Thank you for bringing your light to the party, as always. Everybody's drinking caffeine, which means I'm talking too much. So,
but coming soon for the rest.
Coming soon. Yeah, y'all who are watching, get your bourbon ready, because the recipe we're making today
calls for bourbon.
Breakfast bourbon. Like, what could be better? I have Angel's Envy bourbon. I was looking for Writer's Tears bourbon, but maybe appropriately I couldn't find it.
I have Bullet bourbon.
Bullet is amazing.
Yeah, it's good.
It's really good. And I'm going to stop talking in a minute, I promise, but I want to introduce Rach, for those of you who don't yet know her. Rachel Levy-Lasser is the author of Life's Accessories, a memoir and fashion guide. Her work has appeared in Huffington Post, Glamour, Parenting, Modern Loss, Queller, and several anthologies. Rach is a graduate of UPenn and the University of Michigan Business School. In her previous life as a marketing professional, she worked on the business side of Time Inc. on magazines including InStyle, People, and Real Simple. When not writing, Rach can be found baking, obvi, and running her podcast, which is also called Life's Accessories. So can you tell us a little bit about the podcast?
Yeah, Karen and I were talking offline. So I'm a baker and a podcaster and an over-accessorizer. My podcast called Life's Accessories, which you can download it wherever you get your podcasts. And in it, my podcast partner, Stephanie Goldstein, and I actually met Stephanie through the baking show. We interview cool, interesting, awesome people, celebrities, whatever, about an interesting item from their closet. And from there, we take it. Like this past week, we had on Liz Lang, the maternity designer, and she talked about a bracelet. And it was like fascinating. To preview this week, we're having on a royal expert who wrote a book on Diana's dresses, and her accessory is the dress that Diana wore to dance with John Travolta in the White House. Just saying.
Shut the front door.
And I know that we're a little over the royals right now, but this is going to be a good conversation, because it's about the fashion. It's not about all the whatever else, you know?
I'm a royal watcher, so I think it's always a good time to talk.
Well, I'm a royal watcher too.
I totally agree. I'm like, who is over the royals? I'm not over the royals.
I had COVID. I finally got COVID 2.5 years into it, the day that Queen Elizabeth died. So I sat in my room for a week and just watched royal coverage. So yeah. Okay. I digress. Welcome, Aliza. So let me just tell you, we're so happy to have Aliza Sokolow. Sokolow or Sokolow? Did I say that wrong?
Sokolow.
Aliza Sokolow. So this is her first book. This is What I Eat. So congratulations on having your first book come out this month. It was published by Random House Kids and released on January 3rd, so just a few weeks ago. Prior to her book's release, Aliza worked as a food stylist and photographer for both digital and print. She got her start working for Jamie Oliver on his Food Revolution project. Remember that? Aliza's work has won 1 Emmy, 2 Emmy nominations, and a James Beard Literary Award. Not bad. Her photography work can be seen in the New York Times, Architectural Digest, Bon Appetit, Wall Street Journal, and the LA Times. She's a proud alum of the University of California, Berkeley, and loves to give back to the community and the world. She serves on the council for the UC Berkeley Food Institute. She's a leadership fellow with the Joint Distribution Committee and the Tel Aviv Institute, and she serves on the board of nonprofit The Little Market. Welcome, Aliza.
Thank you for having me. I'm so happy to be here.
Oh, we're so happy to have you here. And we were saying before we got on, this is your first book. You're in your pub month. It's a big deal. How's it going?
It's very exciting. It's nonstop. The best part about having a New Year's book is that everyone seemed to have gotten back from holiday at a different time. So it was like January 3rd for everyone on a different day this month.
Right.
So constantly new. I love getting feedback from parents, and I've done a lot of in-person events, and people are into this book.
Yeah.
But my favorite thing is one of my followers sent me a message and said her kid requested 3 different types of vegetables after reading the book, and she ate them, and I was like, okay, we're doing it. Like,
You're doing your job.
This is happening.
What made you want to write a book for kids?
I love kids. I think they're a really fun group of humans. And when I worked for Jamie Oliver, which was about, I think it must have been like 12 or 13 years ago. And we worked with kids in a lower income area who had a lot of health issues based upon diet and, a bunch of other factors. But I just remember working elbow to elbow with some 7-year-olds who had type 2 diabetes, and they had never eaten a salad before and hadn't eaten a lot of fresh vegetables. And they were telling me how great it was and like how they felt and how delicious it was. And I knew that whatever it was I was going to do in the food space, I always wanted to go back to working with kids. And as you can see from following my Instagram and all social media, that I love colors and shapes and sizes. And I studied to be an architect, which was really just a way of thinking for me, and using how my crazy brain works to relate to kids and eating is really what came together for this book. So yeah, I just wanted to educate. I want everyone to, my goal for the book is just to get people to eat a little bit better.
Mm-hmm.
And so if adults or kids or any type of human can do that, like I've accomplished my goal.
That's awesome. Well, speaking of fruits, we're going to be making apple pie. I got my apples ready. So I always say I'm kind of the camp counselor where I keep us organized and I do our stuff. So this is a little different. This is not necessarily a recipe from the book. I mean, in your book, it's an interactive book too, which is very cool. It's like, I don't want to say a workbook, but it's like, it's very interactive.
It's sort of a workbook. Like I was a really tactile kid. And I've noticed a lot of kids are very tactile kids and they love to color in their books.
Yeah.
And I tell people, get a bunch of crayons out when you pick up your book, because this is your book. You get to write your name in it and say where you live and like circle your favorite color and what vegetable or fruit relates to that color. So it's a workbook, and I'm
cool.
Right?
I should put my name in it.
You should.
Yeah.
It'll bring you joy.
I do like that. I always like putting my name in a book. So anyway, so I asked Aliza for a recipe that we could bake. So she came up with this great apple pie recipe. So for those of you that are baking at home, and we previously put out the recipe, I already did the pie crust last night. So I have my pie crust ready because that had to be done in advance. And as Aliza said, it's really easy, right? This recipe for the pie crust.
So easy. My friend Clemence gave me this pie crust recipe, and I've yet to mess it up after like a decade of using it. And I think a lot of people are very scared of doing pie crust, it seems overwhelming. And this one, you can't mess it up. So
you really can't. And Jen, I feel like I know what Jen is thinking because
you see me like bouncing up and down. And
the first time I made pie crust on air was with a wonderful guest, Beth Howard, who wrote a book. It was This American Pie. Was it This American Pie? Yeah. And I was doing her pie crust and I was getting yelled at because I was like touching the dough too much. And so I'm like a little bit scarred by that.
100%. This one is very hard to mess up though.
Right. This is easy. And I did it not on air. So that was good.
But for all the pie phobics out there, what makes this one, or not pie phobic, but pie crust phobic people, like what makes this one so foolproof?
It's very straightforward. And a lot of the time with baking, it has to do with temperatures. So this one, honestly, you can do this one in a food processor if you do it very lightly and gingerly, but like it's so straightforward. Like you pinch, in order to do a really good pie crust, you put your frozen cubed butter in and sort of pinch it till it has little like little balls of butter. But I've done this one where I sort of messed up and there was like a large piece of butter that came into the dough after I rolled it out. And it was a delicious pie because we're all human and it still tasted great. So that's tiny great. Errors in baking is usually challenging, but with this pie dough, it works out.
Yeah, I mean the ingredients for the crust, it's 3 cups of flour, 2 teaspoons of salt, 2 tablespoons of sugar, 12 ounces of butter, and 2/3 cup of water. I mean, it's like you have it all in your house.
Yeah, everyone's always ready. And I often I roll out pie dough like in my freezer right now. I have some ready to defrost and just make a pie because that's how I live my life. I don't know. You can always make a pie off of seasonal fruits. So you can do that, like have it ready, or even for the holidays, I do a bunch of pie shells and freeze them and they're ready to go.
Right. That's awesome. All right. So the crust is ready. The ingredients, it calls for 5 to 7 apples, which I cored and sliced up. I kept the skin on because it doesn't matter, right?
Come on, it's fine. No.
So does it matter what kind of apple?
Honestly, it's a play your own game. In the book, there's all these really fun food facts. I've been obsessed with apples since 2nd grade. We did an apple unit, and my incredible 2nd grade teacher, Barbara Summers, came to my book party, and
that's so amazing.
It was the most VIP guest at this party because they're just like, there's I think over a dozen different illustrated apples in this book. But when I go into schools and do an activity with them or events, we always do an apple tasting because there's 7,500 different types of apples. And it's a very interesting fact. And we do a tasting of like a red, a pink, a yellow, a green. I personally love to bake with a Granny Smith apple, but Fuji is delicious. Everyone loves a Fuji. I wouldn't do a Macintosh.
Yeah.
I don't trust people who are into Macintosh apples. Like my dad and sister, I couldn't figure it out growing up why they like apple.
Because they're too
they're like kind of mushy. The skin is kind of thin. They have zero appeal to me.
Okay, I did Gala apples.
Gala's great. Gala I put in the Fuji category. So
I like Gala. I'm more of a Granny Smith, but my family's more Gala. So we're good. Yeah.
Also, if you had 5 different types of apples you wanted to put in, great.
Right. Okay.
Oh, that's interesting. I never heard that.
That is so interesting. Okay, so we have the Gala. So am I going to mix all the stuff in the bowl and then pour it in the pie crust?
Yes.
Okay. So we're going to put a stick of butter that I have just up in, I put it in little pads of butter, right? I slice it.
Yeah.
Okay. Let me do that. And then to that, we're going to add, this is really easy, a 1/2 cup of brown sugar, pre-measured out. And then, of course, this is getting stuck because that's what brown sugar does, right?
Yeah. Ooh, I have a really good tip about that, you guys.
What's that? Wait, I'm running out my mixer. Yeah.
Whenever I store brown sugar, I put a slice of bread in the canister, and the humidity created by the bread keeps the brown sugar really, really soft.
I put 2 marshmallows in my brown sugar, like, I have an industrial-sized container, and that also helps.
Cool.
Yeah, I remember what that is. It's so weird. But yeah, like I have tried to make a recipe at the last minute, and the brown sugar is a rock, and I put it in the microwave, and then the jar blew up. And I mean, like there are all sorts of bad things you can do with it. But when you're storing brown sugar, just put in. I love the marshmallows because then you can, when you finish the sugar, you can take out the marshmallows and eat them.
100%.
Cool.
I have yet to do that because I have so much brown sugar, but it works.
That's a good tip.
Mhm.
All right, 2 tablespoons, or no, 1 tablespoon rather of vanilla.
You
Okay.
can put 2 if you want. I'm like an over vanilla. I love super vanilla-y things.
Me too. I'm a vanilla person.
Same. It's so
It was
delicious.
just my birthday, and I had a vanilla on vanilla cake, and everybody made fun of me. I'm like, I love vanilla.
Oh,
It's really
same.
delicious.
Yeah.
I'm like, do not give
People
me
don't
a
understand
chocolate cake.
this. Yeah.
Aliza, do you have a chocolate palette? Or I have a caramel vanilla salt palette, and I can take or leave chocolate. I'm sorry, I'm missing a chromosome or something.
Me too.
It seems as though I like them all. I mean, for my first book party, we did a vanilla on vanilla cake that had my book cover printed on it.
Fun.
It was funny because it was in the center of like a giant crudité fruit, like an insane sized table of like only farmers market veg and fruit and dips and all these things. And then there was this like sugary vanilla on vanilla cake in the middle. But I had the book cover on it, but I also love chocolate.
That's so cool. All right.
It's delicious.
I'm gonna get all the ingredients in here. We're doing 2 teaspoons of salt. Which
I like to put salt in my sweets. It makes everything come to life.
I put salt in my cookies. So, and that's Cheryl Dave's recipe, by the way. Wait, and this caught me for a loop. A teaspoon of pepper.
Oh yeah, you have to put pepper in your pies.
Okay.
Blueberry pie, peach pie.
I love it.
Wait, why? That is so
I've never
fascinating.
put a pepper in a pie.
You know when you are eating pie or something and you're like, I don't know what it is that makes this so delicious, but there's something to it. That's the something to it in pie.
Oh my gosh, that's so good. Does it have to be black pepper? Sometimes I cook with cayenne pepper, like
I do black pepper. If I'm making a soup, I use white pepper, but I put black pepper in my pie and it is that something extra that just makes it so delicious. You're gonna try it and you're gonna love it.
Now we saved the best for last. 2 tablespoons of bourbon.
Okay, I'm gonna put that in my mouth because I love my Korean apples and.
Now January be damned.
I'm actually not doing. This is the first booze I have had since like November because I've had migraines. So I cut out gluten, dairy, booze, and coffee. I don't drink coffee anymore, you guys. That's why I'm so chill. That's why I'm like this now.
I was like, are you okay?
What is happening?
It's a strange thing because it's like all of these things are what I live on. I live on cheese. I have a cheese and vegetable and salt palette, and I have not wanted cheese since November, which is so strange. And now I eat mostly like rice and vegetables. But I'm gonna have bourbon.
Cheers. I'm drinking. That's okay.
Tell us about the bourbon, how you figured this out, or bourbon in the recipe.
When I do a peach pie, I love to put bourbon in it. Like I love brown sugar bourbon flavor, and it really goes with any fruit. And so I adapted this for my summer peach pie recipe. And I love how it tastes. I feel like it's like a hot toddy with apples, but like it's just special and warm. And I find in baking, you have to be so precise, which is like how my architecture background really manifests itself in cooking. Like this is its home, this is the percentage. But I find that with doing pie filling, you can be a little bit more liberal in things. And like they come together. It just tastes delicious. So I think bourbon and baking, I mean, it bakes out, but there's still the hint of flavor, and
it's very cool.
It's delicious.
I mean, this smells like, it's so great because it was like, first it was vanilla, then it was the pepper, so it's totally waking me up. So you mix this up pretty well in the bowl, and then you add it to your pie shell, right?
Yep.
Pretty easy.
And preheat your oven, but
yeah. My oven was preheated to 375, so it's preheated. Perfect. Now, what would you recommend that I do for the top of this pie? Because I have another crust.
You can do, are you a lattice kind of girl?
Could be.
Or I find for not lattice people and people who are scared of doing it is find one cookie cutter, even if it's like a circle, and just cut out a bunch of circles, put them on top, and it'll be beautiful.
Okay. All right.
That's so smart. And if you don't, I use sometimes a juice glass for a cookie cutter because I never know where my cookie cutters are. So I like dip that in sugar and then, you are giving us all the tips today.
Oh, that's a really good idea. We had on, just like not to talk about other guests, but we had on Lauren Coe, who wrote the book Pieometry.
Awesome.
And she is like a serious pie artiste. So when you said lattice, I was getting a little triggered because she had me doing this like origami stuff.
Like a double Dutch lattice.
I don't have enough hands, and yet we did it. I mean, mine didn't look as good as hers, but it was kind of fun. I guess this is like the look back episode, right? Since it's the 2-year anniversary.
I love it. I would also like roll out your pie dough a little bit more so it's thinner.
Yeah. All right, I'm going to do that right now. I'm going to roll.
Are you feeling traumatized, Rach? Notice how gentle Aliza was. And like Beth Howard is so funny because she did teach classes and how to make pies. She is amazing. But I was like, Beth, you're traumatizing Rachel. And she's like, I know. This is just how I do it. She's like, I make no apologies.
Stop touching the dough.
She's like, Rachel, you're handling the dough. Stop handling the dough. And I was sitting there like crying with laughter because poor Rachel.
I've worked with a lot of kids, so my patience has improved a lot over time. I find adults are more scared to take risks in
That's true.
any form of cooking, but I want them to love it because in this generation, having a tech-free hands-on activity is what I aim for in cooking, especially with kids. Like, let's get our hands dirty and then make something delicious.
All right, I'm going to take Jenna's suggestion because I don't know where my cookie cutters are right now to get the juice glass. So hang on.
Juice glass.
Back in a sec.
I love it.
Do you have tips? Here's another thing. Like I am a top crust kind of girl, although sometimes I totally cheat and do a brown sugar crumble crust because I like to eat that. I just like to eat the crumble.
It's so delicious.
But if you have that top crust, how do you transfer it onto the pie without it? When
you roll it out, you put half of it onto your rolling pin, carry it over, which is probably just like 2 inches, and then plop it on top.
Okay.
And do whatever sort of pleating you want on the outside.
Do you do hand pleating, like the little bird pinches?
I do. This is such a funny thing to do. I do it with a thumb because I like a larger
like a scallop.
Yes, I like it to be larger, so like thumb sized, and not as much the like tiny just finger sized, but it takes practice, but it's very easy to do, which I know people find disappointing because you look at beautiful pastries and you're like, this must be so hard. But if you have 2 hands, you can do it very easily to just like push it in like it, your thumb and your fingers go very easily and just keep turning the pie. And after you do a first pleating, you do it again to make sure everything is in its place and it'll be delicious.
Yeah, the thing about pie is if you're making it for yourself or for other people, like people are getting a pie, so it's kind of like, oh, does the pie look a little bit weird? Not that yours ever would. Everything I ever bake looks totally malformed, like somebody made it in the dark, like in a shed. But if it tastes good, I'm like, okay, I want to.
take a slice, put it in a bowl, put a scoop of ice cream on top. No one cares what it looks like.
No one cares.
No one cares. Like, it's not going to a competition. It is probably made with so much love and butter and whatever else, and it'll be delicious.
So that's my first oi on the show. So Aliza, I think it is, yeah, which is surprising. So I just took these circles and I'm sort of putting them haphazardly on top of the filling.
We're gonna keep putting them on. Yeah.
Okay. So more?
Yeah, you need more. You want more fruit to be covered.
Do you want it all to be covered? Okay. Thank you for telling me that. I was going to ask you that. I'm almost done there. This is fun. This is something totally new for me to do.
Right. And it'll be a bit more architectural, having these like abstract designs with the little circles. And
all right.
I just think that things need to be fun.
Right. Yeah. Ellen, who does
not planned. We just figured this out on the fly.
Our Twitter director said I get traumatized just remembering the lattice process. And now, Ellen, you don't have to do that. You can make little circles or like other cutouts or like stars or
like stars. I did one for my nephew that had like sea creatures.
Oh, that's so cool.
He was not impressed, but I was like, Miles, look at what I made for you. He's like, cool.
I'm impressed.
He was 5 at the time. And I was like, this is so fun.
The Don't Stress Attitude in Bakery, My Urine Books. Hi, My Urine Books. I'm going to try making pastry. What is your suggestion, maybe from your book, Aliza, about the first pastry you would try making? Like, what is the first dish?
I would just try to do whatever it is I love to eat. Like, if you can follow directions, you can bake.
That's like, what I say. If you can read.
If you can read, you can bake. Cooking is a lot more forgiving. Baking is very precise.
Right.
But you can do it. I mean, I bake chocolate chip cookies a lot. And I know that's like the most heartwarming,
the best,
nostalgic smell and taste. And, you know, even get the bag of Toll House and just follow the directions. But also, if you're a parent, bake with your kid. Yes. Like, get your kid into the kitchen. Go to the farmer's market with them. Go to the grocery store with your kid and get them to choose something they want to eat or bake. Or even with my apple obsession, I made the most incredible applesauce with my mom and my sister during Hanukkah, where we just took, was doing an apple project and had like 10 different types of apples, and I just cut them up.
Covered.
We put, oh, it's beautiful. And just put it in the slow cooker. And a few hours later, we had applesauce and it was delicious. So, and that's a great place to put your very hard brown sugar, is in a slow cooker with apples.
That's so good. All right, I'm going to put this in the oven. How long are we baking it for?
Oh, we need to egg wash it.
Egg wash. Thank you. I have it ready.
A little egg wash. And then do you have turbinado sugar?
Yes, I do have that.
And then we'll sprinkle that on top, because, you know, when you go, I guess I grew up eating a lot of Costco pie, and it always had a very significant turbinado sugar crust on top on their lattice. Yeah. So I like to go with that very classy memory of mine. And
totally,
everyone loves Costco pie. I think they put a lot of pectin on the inside, but
oh yes, to make the fruit gel. Can you tell us? And I do want to answer this question from My Urine Books also. It's not really a question, but the comment is, I can bake cookies, squares, and scones, but I'm afraid of trying pastry. So we started out this broadcast talking about how this is a fail-safe pie crust recipe, and in the chat we have Aliza's book, which has the recipe for this pastry. But is there another like super easy pastry recipe you can recommend in addition to this one? That's just like, I know basically you're saying don't be scared, it's just pastry, it's not like the nuclear button, but like still I get it. My Urine Books, like, I'm not scared of pie crust, but like I could never make a croissant, for instance, because I'm like, oh my god.
That's like
I made popovers from scratch. Not to brag.
Okay, you're bragging though, but it's okay. We love you. It's okay.
It was Anna Garten's recipe.
What are some other pastries?
Like croissant.
I make the levain blueberry muffins, and I add lemon zest to them. And then on top, I love that my book is about healthy eating, and I'm telling you about all the, you got to live a little. But I put a really healthy amount of organic white sugar on top of that blueberry recipe and the blueberry muffin recipe. And it's like a crispy top that's almost like scone-like. So you have a scone and a muffin. And I put so many blueberries in because, love to add a fruit. So just like pick a book and go through it. Like it's really, or even my friend Clemence, who made this pie dough recipe. She has a school in Santa Monica called the Gourmandise School, and the recipes on her website are incredible and very user friendly. Like sometimes pastry chefs come out with cookbooks, and even myself as someone who's very experienced in baking, I'm like, I don't know how to do this. Like, this is confusing. I don't want like a double boiler and all of these French terms that love a double boiler for like melting chocolate, but there's a lot going on that I, as a home cook baker, like way over my head. So
it's so funny that you said that about the double boiler, because I'm a baker and also a writer. And I just wrote this essay for the Nosher about a family recipe for macaroons. And the recipe is very old, for Passover. And it says, melt chocolate chips in a double boiler. And I texted my aunt, who's like the keeper of the recipe. She's like, you can use a microwave. It's fine. They didn't have a microwave back when like the great whatever was doing it.
Yeah.
So,
I actually love the texture of a double boiler chocolate, but if you're dipping your coconut macaroons, use the whatever makes your life easier.
Your mind. Okay, how long do I put this in the oven for?
Like 45 to an hour.
All right, so I'll put it in for 45 and then I'll check.
Put a baking sheet underneath it because fruit gets very hot and boils over.
I'm sorry to disappear for a minute, and you're seeing my baking cabinetry, which was built for the show.
I love it.
Rachel baking butt, which we love. It's everybody drink because we saw like Rach baking butt. This is like my favorite thing. I'm gonna have some bourbon. So chin chin. So I think with like the crust too, like I'm sort of separating on this. I think it's the reason people don't try to make pies or crust. But the worst pie fail I ever made was actually recently, and I baked a crust that for some reason turned out like a shortbread. Like I had made a raspberry pie for friends who came over, and we literally had to hit the pie with a hammer to like get it, like to get the bottom crust out of the pan. And you know what? It was delicious. It was like shortbread.
Great.
So it's like, it doesn't really matter in some ways, like what the texture is. I feel like if it tastes good, then you're like, I made you a shortbread with raspberries. You changed the name. Just change
the name. It's all about framing.
It's all about the marketing.
It's all about spin. That's right.
Also, a note on your crust. Most people take their pies out too early. Like you don't want it to be blonde. You want this to be a very tan brown. I was blonde for 12 years, Jenna. Don't worry. You want it to be a golden brown crust. Like so many people on the internet take their breads out too early, their pies. Like let it become golden brown. Like that is so significant.
That's good. So, and I know it depends on your oven. So my oven runs pretty true to whatever, but so I have it set for 45 minutes, but I will check it and I will keep it in longer. I'm sort of in between a blonde and a brunette these days.
Yeah, I got it.
So, that's cool. Yeah.
It's fine. I feel very marginalized, but whatever. But what about cookies? Like, do you take the cookies out early?
When I do my cookies, I put them in for, what do we bake them at? Like 375. I put them in for 10 minutes and then I turn them and keep them in for another 2 and then I take them out. Because most ovens are very uneven, but there's something about that spin.
I do the spin too, Aliza. I do it 6 and 6.
I mean, I love 6.
We're giving each other.
Whoa.
I'm a 6 and 6 girl, and sometimes a little extra minute at the end.
I love that, but I'm a 10 and 2, and I can't not be. It's the only way.
Right. Can you tell us about some of your photography work? Because your website is so beautiful. Like it's so
Thank
cool. So
you.
I know we linked to it. Yeah.
I think probably like I have no concept of time, especially post pandemic, but probably like 6 or 7 years ago, because I worked with a lot of chefs after I left working in TV. So like mostly restaurants in Los Angeles and some in Chicago and New York. But I ran social media in a time pre-Instagram. I like started a company that at the time was just Facebook and Twitter, and people are like, what a dumb job. Like social media for restaurants. And I was like, it sounds kind of weird, but I really think like there's something to it. Like I think it is going to be a really important thing. And then Instagram came about
Right.
2 years later. And what made what I was doing with chefs at that time really special is that I would go to the Santa Monica market every week. And I only worked with chefs in restaurants that shopped local. And so I got to know a lot of the farmers really well, which I also did during my like previous work in TV when we would shoot things. And I like one of my favorite farmers, her name is Laura, and she grows the best avocados in the world. We always make fun of her that like she waters her plants with Avion. Just everything she does is
Avion spritz.
Right, is the best. Like her citrus is everything she grows is like the crown jewel of produce. And it was like peak season. It was probably in like May for avocados, and she had like 14 different types of avocados. So I got a few of each and I brought them home, and I love the shapes of all of them. Like they're so different. They're all avocados, but they're so different in flavor and texture. And I made sort of a print and like posted it on my Instagram account. And Food and Wine magazine had messaged me that they wanted to use the image. And I was like, okay, cool.
That's cool. Yeah.
Love that. For me, like, that's pretty major. And I realized that my like architecture brain of seeing things and knowing the market, and I just kept going to the market during the seasons for like the next few years and finding really interesting looking produce or all of the different colors of things, or even like I have a radish print that's like it's like a hot pink watermelon radish. And I made this really gorgeous print with it, and it sort of looks like fish scales. And I just started creating art with produce, and I was hoping that it would be a tool to educate people on fruit and vegetables, much like my book, which is not like I eat this, it's healthy, but look at all these cool things that exist from nature.
Right.
And I love that. And you could, not only is it beautiful, but like these are things you can eat, you can put them in a salad, you can bake all of these different types of pears. Like citrus is something I'm so obsessed with, and it's so beautiful. Like it is crazy what the earth produces. And even like what is it, blood oranges that have like 3 different colors, and they're sort of ombre and delicious and beautiful. And I just really wanted to expose people to the incredible things that farmers were doing in a way that was like very beautiful and educational to me. So
That's
kind of
cool.
took off, to say the least.
Well, speaking of sort of visual and pictures, the illustrations in the book are awesome. So, and I want to give a shout out to illustrator Lauren Lowen. Is that how you say her last name? Lowen?
Yes, she's an icon.
So how did you get hooked up with her, and what was that process like working with her? Because the book is so visual.
The book, I mean, without the illustrations, it would be,
I mean, look at the cover.
It wouldn't be what it is. When I got my book deal, that one I was really inspired by Notting Hill, when Hugh Grant is really sad and walks through the farmer's market.
I love that montage. I'm having a moment, but like
Are we seriously talking about Notting Hill on this baking show?
Yeah, because he goes to the farmer's market. He cries in the farmer's market for a whole year.
That the other night on TV. I will always stop and watch that movie. Yeah.
But I thought it was so interesting how they mark time through seasons at the farmer's market. And as someone who's very into that, I was like, this movie, like, I love it even more now. So that's what that page was inspired by. But I got my book deal, and Random House said, these are the illustrators we work with, rank them, and who you want, and they'll reach out to see who's available. And Lauren was one of my top picks, and when she said yes to this project, I was over the moon. She's so creative and colorful and fun, and her characters feel very inclusive to me, and there's a kid and an adult of every ability, and she's adorable as well.
Yeah, so cute. Yeah.
And she's a dream. I sent her a bunch of my artwork when she first got the job, but there's even like this page with watermelons on it, and I have a watermelon print that has like all the different colored watermelons on it. So this was really inspired by that. But she just blew it out of the park. Like, I still look at the book and I'm just in awe of how relatable it is, and how, like, I want to participate in the book. Everything looks fun. I mean, fruits of all different sizes. Like, she took my dreams and my writing and just put it into
I mean, you guys are clearly a great team. I feel like the drawings in this, and it's not easy to do with sort of the task at hand, but I think what she was able to do was, bring this idea that you had, this wonderful idea of getting kids excited about eating fruits and vegetables and being educational. And she made it realistic, but she also kind of made it like whimsical. Do you know what I mean?
So whimsical. It's so fun. It's just, I'm so grateful for her every day, because she took making, reasons we love to eat.
Yeah.
Like, look at all of these characters.
So sweet.
They're just having fun.
Yeah, it's really cool.
You know what they remind me of a little bit is the Richard Scarry books for kids that we used to read, where everything is labeled. And my sister and I talk about this all the time. Like, our favorite drawing in all the Richard Scarry books is there's a loaf of bread on every page with the wavy lines coming from it. And this is why I like to actually bake things, is because of Richard Scarry and like all of the labels. So Ellen wants to know if this is a good book for kidless families or families who have grown kids. I think so. I don't have kids, and I want to get this book and eat the pages. So I would say yes. But Aliza.
Yes, I think this book is for everyone. Like, adults that have gotten this book are like, I filled it out. I did the activities. Like, just, there's all these fun foodie facts in the book. And, I was a really tactile kid, and I still am a tactile kid. And just to, even as an adult, I replant avocado pits.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Like, I have an avocado tree growing on my patio that's from one I planted, which is a really cool activity in the book. And even like replanting basil, if you put a bag over it in just like one stem of basil in your window, it will regrow an entire thing. Mm-hmm. There's all these like fun tips.
Yeah, you learn a lot. It's funny you said that. That was a great question, Ellen, because I have a 16-year-old daughter who's still at home. My son is away at college, but and I feel like I never get to see her because she's so busy with, just life with a 16-year-old. Now she drives, but I am going to sit down with her. We're going to do this together. She loves to cook and bake. So I'm kind of excited about that. Yeah. I think
I love that. Yeah, I think this is for every age. It's really, there's activities you can color. There's a word search. I talk about composting and like ways to give back. And there's so many different, I don't know, this is inspiring. Like, how can we give back?
Yes.
And like,
it makes you think, because it leaves time for you to say, how would you do this? And so when do we stop in our day to do that? I think it's so cool.
I agree. So I think it's a really fun book. Like, I'm so into it. Even there's a page for everything that surrounds food, and it's such a big part of everyone's life. So, I wanted to make it fun. Even composting, like that's something we really need to do for the environment. Hopefully, people can use their green bins a little bit more. So,
yeah,
no one's perfect, but we can all have fun.
It sounds like a recipe for meditation in a way too. Like people are always looking for ways of like, okay, self-care in terms of like taking time out of their days. But like if you choose an activity from the book and do it, it's like gives you a break from a screen. It's a tactile thing, right? Like I would love to do that. And just to learn, like I'm a food curious person, like I'm a foodie and a geek. So I want to know more. Like I didn't know you could regrow basil. I'm always wondering what to do with basil. Like it dies instantly as soon as I put it on the counter, So to think like, oh, I can regrow it and repot it. Like you're giving us so many good tips.
And it's like fun, easy tips, like things I've just learned from talking to people at the farmer's market. Or
I want to come to California and go to the farmer's market with you because I'm a member of a farm co-op during the summer, but I'm in Philadelphia, so it's like we do it like I think it's May through November, but then it's snowing. So
it's very different. California grows about, I think it's 60% of the produce for the entire country.
Wow. Yeah, let's go to the farmer's market field trip.
We're all going to the farmer's market. What's your favorite fruit or vegetable?
I love eating watermelon. I know that everyone growing up, when you would go to people's houses, there were like this, there's even a question in the book, like, what do you eat at your best friend's house? So when people would come to my house, which like everyone always came to my house growing up. So my mom always had sliced watermelon in the fridge. There was always orange juice and there was challah. But like those were the staples, and I love eating watermelon. I'm really seasonal in my old age, so I usually only eat it in the summertime. And I eat avocados year round. I love them. I tell people that's why I have such nice skin, because all the healthy fats from avocado. And I eat, like, there's this farm called Andy's Orchard in San Jose, and they come to the Santa Monica market for a few months in the summer, and they have the best stone fruit and cherries I've ever had. And like I wait all year to eat a plum from them. So it really depends, but I'm a watermelon girl through and through, and avocado. I eat a lot of blueberries. I'm really like practice what I preach. Like I love eating vegetables so much. So eat a lot of cucumbers. I'm really into Israeli salad lately.
Yeah, that was one of the, we can give our viewers behind the scenes. When I first emailed Aliza and her publicist, was like, can we do a recipe together? And they were like, an Israeli salad. I was like, yeah, no, we're baking. Yeah. But that salad looked amazing, and I am going to make it. Yeah. I
mean, I'm obsessed with making Israeli salad, and I put pomegranates and persimmons in it. And I'm very strict on no fruit in my salads, but somehow it just works.
Yeah. I get it.
I mean, pomegranate is a seed. So, I mean,
precisely.
Again, it's all about the spin. And what is your favorite thing to bake?
Currently in this season, like I'm doing chocolate chip cookies today for a dinner, and then I'm really into doing olive oil cake. And because I think everything could be a little bit more colorful / a fruit dessert, I do I take like cara oranges, which are a pink, I guess it would be fleshed. It's pink on the inside, and I candy orange slices. So I do an upside down olive oil cake.
Oh, that sounds so good.
I bring it everywhere because everyone loves it, and it's not too sweet, and it's beautiful. So that's my like winter baking is that.
I'm going to email you for these recipes, and I'm going to share my chocolate chip cook recipe because I love chocolate chip cookies, all different kinds.
But when I do baked goods, there's this really incredible farm project called the Tehachapi Grain Project, and they grow wheat and rye and a bunch of different grain, like 75 miles north of where I live in LA. And so everything I bake is with their flour. So when people are like, why is this so delicious? Or this didn't hurt my stomach, and usually eating wheat does, I'm like, oh, this is the OG grain. Like if you're in Europe, this is the kind of flour you're having. And like, it has not been Americanized in the feeding.
Right. Like there's no such thing as gluten-free in Europe because it's not going to hurt your stomach.
Precisely. So when I do baked goods, I use a flour that's, I'm going to say it's pretty much the same thing. And so the flavor of my baked goods from like the terroir of the soil that grows the wheat, like is so delicious. So
is it einkorn flour? Because that's
I usually use Sonora or Red Fife. And
where do you get it? Where did you order it?
At the farmer's market.
Farmer's market. Yeah, we're coming. I love San
Yeah. There's also some like really great locally grown grains that are available online. But if you have access to them or can place your order, like Grissom Toll sells online, you're baked, because everything has to do with ingredients. So if you're using all the best ingredients, it's gonna taste delicious.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
It's just so science.
I feel like we could talk to you forever, and we maybe will offline. I just want to know, congrats to you, by the way, on this book. Thank you for spending time with us. What do you have coming up next as far as events, either like in person or virtual, anything that our viewers, where they can check you out for the book?
Like I have a book event at Valerie Confections in Glendale today, and I'm at the Atwater Farmers Market tomorrow. I will be in Chicago and Nashville for events in April. I'll probably be in the Bay Area next month, but if you follow me on Instagram, I am always posting about what I'm up to.
Yeah.
If people want to do an in-person event, I am game for that. I will be in my nephew's first grade class on Wednesday.
Awesome.
High low of everything. I just want everyone to eat a little bit better. So if you want to have me come when I'm in your city, because I'll be all over, happy to do that. I'm going to be at a few more farmers markets and book signings. I'm doing something at Chevalier in LA at the end of next month. So there's no shortage of exciting things for this event happening in the next 6 months. So
that's awesome.
I'm around. Yeah.
Well, our viewers should follow you on Instagram, because I love following you on Instagram. And as I said to you, I feel like I know you from Instagram, and you said it's pretty legit to who you are. And I could totally see that. Yeah.
100%. Just like fun and delicious.
Yeah. Fun and delicious. Well, thank you for joining us, Aliza. Jenna, thank you for co-hosting. I missed you.
Always. And happy anniversary again, Rach.
Thank you.
This is such a good anniversary edition. Thank you so much, Aliza, for being with us today.
Thank you for having me. This was so wonderful. I wish I could eat that pie.
I
know. Me too.
I know. You should be. I'm excited. No, that was
anyway. Going to be very pleased with you.
Thank you to our viewers, and we'll see everybody next time. Thanks so much. Bye-bye.
Thank you, everyone.